Some of you and all of us have very different ways that we approach this creative process for starting a track, maintaining our productivity throughout the track, and then mixing, mastering, bouncing it down, right? So in this video, I'm not going to tell you what you should do or how you should approach your creativity. That's your job. That's your decision. That is nobody's business but you to figure out and kind of A/B experiment and see what works for you. And some of you have already gotten your process laid out. In fact, if you do have a process that really works well for you, please be generous and share it below. Maybe it'll give somebody else an idea for what they can try with their approach. I'm just going to let you guys know in this video what my chaos approach is, why I follow the approach that I do. It might not be the right fit for you. It might not be a process that really works for you, your brain, your creativity, your style of music. But just to give you permission that I don't really have a set way that I start a track, maintain the productivity, and finish a track. It always looks different for every track that I've ever done in my career. And I've composed well over 1,000 tracks in my 16 years in this business, okay? Let me explain what I mean by chaos approach. When I am being creative and want to make music, for me, the only thing that I have to absolutely avoid at all costs is writer's block, or just that feeling of not being excited about the music anymore. That feeling, you've all been there, where you get some momentum, you feel something, and the next track you lay on it, the next piano, guitar, bass line falls flat. You're not really liking it. It's kind of working, but it's not getting you excited. And then that lack of energy and motivation starts to just set. And then you don't really feel good about the music anymore. And before you know it, 20, 30 minutes has passed. You really haven't added anything to it. You're just constantly just trying things out, but nothing's really working. Sometimes you can get stuck with you can't find the right sound, which is why you should be preloading your sessions with your instruments that you want to use already. We're going to be talking about that as well in February, so stay tuned. But for me, I want to just make sure that my energy levels are high the entire way through, okay? It's not realistic. There's going to be times where you don't feel great about the music, you're not excited, you kind of hit a lull. But when I get to that point, whatever I'm doing, I will sit there in that moment of suckiness for a little while, maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, max 15, maybe 20. So let's say I'm trying to write a guitar riff and just nothing's coming up, but I'm just like, you know what? I just got to kind of stick with this a little bit. And maybe I'll have a little breakthrough. Sometimes I do get the breakthrough and some new riff or some new idea ignites that excitement again and my energy replenishes and I'm off to the races and I keep going. Sometimes it doesn't, right? And when that happens, instead of me closing my DAW, which is what a lot of you guys probably do, and I fell victim to this much more earlier on in my career, this time what I do is I just move on to something else in the track. I really just see it as nudging things forward, okay? I've been nudging this creative idea as far as it can go. It's not going any further. So rather than just quit, what else can I do productive with this track to nudge the process further? Well, at that point, if I have one little cool riff that I like, let's say I have the drums I have got the drums written. I like the drums. I don't have the riffs written. I don't have any of that, the sort of the musical meat on the bones yet, but I've got this kind of cool idea for drums. All right, let me take these drums. These maybe will be my chorus drums. Let me just program what would the verse drums sound like for chorus drums like this. Maybe I have big open hi-hats and crash cymbals. I'll probably have a little bit more subdued closed hi-hat, groove-oriented beat for the verse. This is just an example, right? Then I know I'm going to probably need a bridge or a build-up section, and I'm just kind of like listening and visualizing, imagining what kind of a guitar riff might be on top of it or whatever. And as I'm doing that, I build up maybe like a tension part of a bridge with the drums, and it's just all drums, right? So in my head, I'm imagining guitar riffs or whatever, but nothing is really being recorded. I'm just using it just to get the drums through. As I'm nudging my drums forward along in this process, a riff might come out, and a lot of times it does. And a riff just goes, whoa, that's a cool idea. I go back to the guitar and I go, that works now. So now I've gotten out of my, stickiness with the guitar, and now I'm moving forward with this process, okay? So I move forward with all of that. Let's say I get stuck again, okay? Now I'm like, okay, so I've got my verse, I've got my chorus, and I've kind of got a build-up section, but I don't really know how to, maybe amp up my chorus yet. I'm like, I know I need to put more on the next time I go through this chorus. I've tried out a couple of different sounds. Nothing's really working. I don't really know what to do. Okay, forget that for right now. After I've sat in that for a couple of minutes, let me just structure this entire track out. Okay, so how do I want this track to start? I'll probably start it with chorus 1, let's say. And then I'm going to want to go into a verse. So I kind of put those pieces together. Then I'll probably want to go into a small, let's say, mini version of that buildup. So I'll cut the buildup in half, put one part of it right there. Then I know I want a chorus too. So let's just put the drums there. Don't necessarily how I'm going to build it up. So I'll just leave that as the kind of bare bone skeleton that it is. After that chorus, probably going to want a bridge or a big buildup. So I basically have that extended buildup after that. And then the final chorus. And you know what? In between all that, I know I'm going to need some transitional elements. Between this verse and this chorus, I need a swell, I need a riser, I'll need a crash and impact for this big buildup bridge that I'm putting there. I know I'll have a long need for some sort of a buildup or a riser sound. So maybe I'll go find something like that from Splice right now, right? This is what I do. So I'm constantly just going as far as I can with one particular process, creative process. And then when I hit big roadblocks, I back out and I go find something else I can start nudging forward. And I'm just nudging the entire time. That's why I call it chaotic, because it's not like I stay in creative writing mode for 4 hours, then get out of it and go into structure mode, into mixing and mastering, that kind of thing. No. And in fact, what I didn't mention is sometimes all of that stuff starts to just get me stuck. I just go immediately into mixing and mastering. I'm just like, I can't think of anything creative. I don't know how to make this track finish. So let me just start messing with these drums a little bit and get them to hit a little bit harder. Let me start, messing with the master a little bit. I'll start putting some of these mastering, even though I haven't completed the track at all, right? Again, this is not orthodox. This is not probably the proper, quote unquote, proper way to do things, but it's how my brain works to make sure that I'm not sitting, getting stuck, feeling really lethargic with the creative process. I'm constantly moving something around, nudging everything around so that I'm feeling, at least I'm getting this illusion maybe of progress, that I'm moving forward. And just going through those actions, I find that whatever was getting me stuck becomes unblocked and new creative ideas basically start to come to the forefront. If all fails, one thing that I always do is I close it down and I go outside and I go for a walk and I get some sunshine on my face and I get some fresh air, or I go listen to some other music. Maybe I go watch some music videos of some of my favorite artists, or I go listen to more reference tracks that are kind of closer to what I really want to do. But whatever it is, I need to get my head out of the creative zone just for a little while, maybe 30 minutes, maybe an hour at the most. So that when I come back, it's fresh again and I can keep going all the way to the very end to hopefully complete my track. So it is war, as you guys know, the war of art. It is a battle. There is never a sort of smooth line from initiation to completion, at least in my career. I think on maybe 2 or 3 occasions, I've had just zero writer's block or any challenges with my creative process. They always come up usually. So I'm just letting you guys know what I do to get through that, and that it's not the right approach. It's just the approach that works for me. So for whatever you guys are doing, there is no right or wrong. So if you're second guessing yourself right now, only thing that I would say is if you're not consistently finishing your tracks, then you probably want to try a new approach, because consistently not finishing your tracks is setting up a really bad habit for the future of your career, that you are allowing yourself to get away with that, right? You're allowing yourself to open up a session, get excited, start a creative process, and then halfway through, 75% of the way through, quit and never finish it. What that does is it subconsciously puts in your mind a permission slip that anytime it gets a little rough, a little hard, hey, just quit. You've done it before. You've done it, hundreds of times before. What's different about this track? So hopefully in Sync Focus 2025, if you're following along and participating, one of the things that you're starting to get out of this is that you don't need to get married to any one particular track. You don't need to get married to any one particular creative effort that you're putting into. But you got to always figure out, how do I get to the other side of it? How do I get to the point where I can hit control bounce? Because that's what professionals do, right? That's the difference between a professional and an amateur. A professional figures out some way in some creative process, taking a break if need be, but getting to the point where they can go bounce, right? For authors, this would be putting the end at the end of your book. Amateurs, they get started, but they never finish anything. Professionals put the end on their books, and professional producers, sync producers for sure, bounce their tracks, but not really necessarily worried. Is this track going to get placed? Is it going to get accepted? Those are not even questions that we should be thinking about. We should be thinking more on a much more basic level of showing up consistently and finishing what we start. So this new habit of showing up and finishing our projects becomes second nature. That is actually what success is. It's not some future date. It's not some future acceptance by a library, a future placement. Those things are great. Those are great goals to go for. We should definitely be going for those things, but those things don't come unless today habits are being built, right? Those are a result, byproduct of successful habits. They're not accidental because you just lucked into this business at some point, right? The people that are really doing great in this business that you're going to hear from with these Zoom calls and with a lot of these guest, producers we're going to have on the program very soon, have got successful habits built in, and they're following their path and their program and their creative process for finishing tracks every single day. So can't wait to see your guys' comments. Can't wait to read about your creative process, and hopefully this was helpful.